Hello and welcome to my new video, which is called Break Free from the System. In this video, I want to talk a bit about the power that governments and media, etc. have over you, and I want to encourage you to walk your own path. First of all, I want to start with, describing one of these typical cookie cutter lives and how this will end up in a loop that doesn't lead anywhere. So usually in the Western civilizations, life goes like this. You go to school and you learn something. There's the teacher teaching you the stuff that he knows. And maybe you go to some university or not, and then you have the same thing again where someone's telling you this is how it is. And you learn stuff. And then if you're out of school or out of university, usually people continue in the same pattern with politicians, where the politicians are the people that they look up to for answers and for, please tell me what to do. And then you work, like what is there to do in life? So, okay, what does everybody else do? They get a house. I need money for a house. And then you found a family and you go for a holiday twice a year. And maybe you drink some alcohol with your friends at the weekends. But basically that's all your life is about, because at the moment you decided that you need this house for some reason. You need your own house and you have to, work 30 years to get it. At that point you put yourself in slavery. Like, you committed a big chunk of your lifetime to just owning a house, which in fact you really never own in most cases. And maybe then afterwards, if you paid your house and everything, maybe then you start thinking about what life is about, because during that time you hardly have any time to reflect and think about your life, really. I mean, you have to work 9 to 5, and you have a family, and then there's so much trouble going on in the media, and you have to put some attention there. And when do you have time to reflect upon your life? Not so much in the typical, let's say, cookie cutter mainstream life. And I want to tell you that this doesn't lead anywhere. It doesn't lead to happiness. Like, maybe you notice that when you strive for something, and then you get it, yeah, you're happy for some time, but it doesn't last. So if you invest, let's say, 30 years of your lifetime, just saving up money so you can finally get a house and call it your own, and then at some point you may realize, even having a family or not, or having all the material goods that you want or not, that maybe this doesn't bring you happiness and fulfillment. Because I can guarantee you that material possessions will not lead to fulfillment. So I think it's kind of a trap to, chase this kind of dream that people inject into you, or that basically you look at all the other people and all of them live the same model. Or let's say 90%, 95%, they strive for the same model. It's like, yeah, having a house and a car or two and, a nice family and this and that. Which is not, I'm not saying it's bad or wrong or something. It's just that, specifically with a house, really think about what you're doing there. And also if you're thinking about having children, you're committing yourself again for quite some time. And that's a big chunk of your lifetime. So, yeah, I want you to consider this. But another point that I'm going for here is that starting in school, there will always be, starting even before, like when you're born, there is the parents telling you this is the truth. They are telling you how the world is, and what's good and what's bad, and what you should do and what you shouldn't do. So first is your parents And because the way your brain waves work when you're a child, you're like in a hypnosis. You will completely absorb this up until I think like 7 years or something. And then you get into school and the same kind of pattern repeats where there's the teachers and they have some kind of authority and they will tell you what is the truth. Maybe at that point, you know, some of the pupils will notice that, you know, teacher is not always right. And I hope you were one of them. And I hope you followed up and you never changed your beliefs because of other teachers. But again, it's kind of the system putting you into a situation where you follow some authority. And as I said in the beginning, so the next step, whether you go to university or not, it doesn't really matter, but the next step would be like politicians. So somehow you give them authority over you. And what most people also do, and this is a very dangerous thing, is they give responsibility to politicians. And they're like, why don't politicians fix the problems in the world? When, yeah, basically it's up to you to change yourself and change within your sphere of, you know, what you can change, instead of relying on other people, because that's freaking lazy and that's not taking responsibility, which I want to encourage you, because you give away your power basically to these people. I mean, at what point in time did the media get this like interpretational sovereignty? Like you hear people in the media and most people think that this is the truth, especially because there's 100 channels and they all say the same thing. And there's like 20, 50 newspapers and they all say the same thing. So it must be true, right? No. I'm asking you, at what point did they get this kind of authority over you that they tell you a story and you blindly accept what they're saying? You're not questioning anything. So why? I'm saying that's because this is how you were raised in the system. And if you weren't aware and if you were a bit lazy to think for yourself and kind of be strong in certain moments, this will, you know, get on and you will kind of follow what they say and you will believe what they say. Because also you're afraid maybe that, well, if they lie to you in this story and in that story, maybe they're also lying on other points. You know, maybe they don't want always the best for you and, you know. So my point here is that question everything. Like, when did they get authority? Or when did they have more of an idea about something than you? There could be people in the media, like big names, you know, like, I don't want to say his name right now, but, you know, people talking about viruses and the corona disease. And you see their faces all the time. And because of this, somehow magically, they have a big influence now. Because you see the face, everybody knows him, and then they try to inject their opinion into you by using this figure, this persona, and presenting that persona as some kind of, you know, this is the expert, this is the absolute expert, and you would just hear this one opinion, or maybe you hear 3 opinions, but it's all the same. It's coming all from the same source. It's coming from the media, the mainstream media I'm talking about. And maybe by now you're already aware that basically all the media on the world are owned by very, very, very few families and groups. And there's very few people controlling the media. It's not like because you have 100 channels and 200 newspapers that you have that much of different opinions. Maybe you have seen videos where, especially in America, it's ridiculous. The anchorman would always say exactly the same sentences in exactly the same order with the exactly same pronunciation. So they are being told what to say. They are not independent. They are getting paid by someone, and that someone dictates what is being said. And these few people dictate the public opinion. Because what the hell is a public opinion? Like, everybody should have his own opinion. it's an opinion that they inject into you. You don't have your own opinion. I mean, if maybe you're still at that point, maybe you're beyond that, but I'm talking about when you're still about to wake up, because this is the video that should help you with this in case you didn't already. So they're trying to inject their opinion into you to make you more controllable. Especially they do that also with fear. They inject fear into you so they can control you more easily. And I would say that's something I don't want to see in the world. I don't want to see that people are afraid all the time and blindly follow orders of other people. I want sovereign beings in my reality. So I really want you to question absolutely everything that you hear, especially from mainstream media. Question everything you may know about health, medicine, the school system, the state, how the state runs, taxes. Question what I'm saying. Question all the philosophies. Question all the religions that you heard. Question the shape of the earth. Question absolutely everything. And find out for yourself what is your own truth. Because if you're always relying on someone else to say you what is the truth, you are still not free. And this is also part of the system in a bigger sense, where, you know, you're relying on, let's say, maybe you evolved from being this cookie cutter guy in the system, paying taxes and, you know, living the normal life, and maybe you evolve to a spiritual seeker, and now all of a sudden you're running after some guru, and you're like, oh yeah, he's so smart and I will do exactly what he says because he's always right. No, he will also have his own truth, and he will also have his own filters. Chances that you find an absolute enlightened being that perfectly conveys the absolute truth to you is asymptotically to zero. So also with me, like, from my perspective, I'm expressing my truths as best as I can, but still, like, don't blindly follow everything that I say. Like, I can just try to encourage you to find your own truths. You know, there's this proverb that goes something like, if you want to teach, it is not like filling an empty container with something. It's more like igniting a fire. And this is what I'm trying to do here. I'm trying to make you think for yourself and question everything. It may be inconvenient, and you may find out a lot of inconvenient truths, but even in the short term, in the middle term, it will make you grow a lot by this. You will become way more independent, and you will have armor like this, you know, because there's people saying something and you don't really blindly accept that, and you're not as easily controllable anymore. Yeah, like these techniques to inject fear into you, it doesn't work as easily anymore, and that makes you way more relaxed in your life. So this is why I'm encouraging you to absolutely question everything. It's a very essential skill on the spiritual path. Very, very essential. Yeah, and I want you to do it. Let's see. I think that even with all the manipulation that took part now, or takes part nowadays, we still have this inner compass. Our feelings, like we get hunches, we get, you know, it's our intuition telling us that something may not be right. The intuition usually it's a very quiet voice, and the intellect is very loud, and also habits are very strong. But if you try and listen to your intuition more, you will realize that this will give you better answers. It's very difficult, I admit, and I'm also not an expert in this yet. But this is something you should also try to listen to a bit more, your intuition. Because your conscience will tell you, you know, what I'm doing here, is that really right? Like, if you listen to your conscience and maybe also to your health, maybe you're working in a job that isn't healthy for you, but you still continue doing it for for some reason, because you have some limiting beliefs about it, that you won't find another job or whatever. And maybe your health suffers from your job. Listen to what your body is telling you. Like, you're getting these signals all the time. And if you have like a burnout, for example, or you're approaching one, or you had one, that, for example, would be a very good example where a higher intelligence than your intellect is telling you something and it wants you to listen. This is what I mean with inner compass. And this is something, there is nothing external needed for this. This comes purely from yourself. And from my experience, is always right. It will always give you what you need, but except for some diseases, usually it doesn't force you. If you get one of these very strong diseases like burnout, then it's like the hammer, because you didn't hear the message before. So even diseases, they can be very helpful for you. Like when your system is stopping you from completely going the wrong path, just don't be an idiot. Listen to your body and listen to your intuition and reflect on your life about these kind of things. Another issue that I want to talk about is following orders blindly is a very bad thing. Just as one very, very obvious example why I don't want this in my reality and why I want you to be a sovereign being that questions decisions and doesn't blindly follow orders are wars. There are wars on the planet, like as far as mankind exists, all the way back, all the thousands of years. And maybe in the future there will always be. I'm not sure. Maybe there's a time when human consciousness has evolved to such a level that there are no more wars. That would be very nice. But right now, obviously, we do still have wars. And why is that? It's because there's a few people, very few people from, the political side and also economical side, which is very much interwoven these days. Maybe has always been, but it's quite obvious nowadays. And they have some interests that are not your interests, and that are also not the interests of mankind and nature. Usually it's just pure greed, fear, and ignorance. It has nothing to do with improving the world. Like, it's absolutely dumb to think that any war will bring peace into the world. It's just imagine it's war, but nobody goes to war. There's no soldiers. There's a few politicians saying, okay, now we go into war, but nobody follows their orders because they understand that, like, no, I'm not shooting on my fellow human beings because they are like my brothers and sisters. I'm not killing someone that may have a family and may have, a good life and brings good into the world. I'm not shooting these people just because you say so. And then what? We have no more wars because nobody's following the orders of someone else. They are focusing on their own life, and they understand that whatever you do for all mankind and for all of nature, for everything that is. So every action that you take, you already checked against your conscience and against your values, whether that's something you stand for. And definitely war is something I personally don't stand for. I stand for the opposite. So yeah, this would be a very obvious example why blindly following orders is not something of high consciousness. It's like people do it, of course, for several reasons. But I think you can easily see that if you're doing this, you're not living your own life. You're giving away responsibility to someone else. And especially in that case, it's so bad because you're inflicting so much damage into the worldwide system. You're killing other people. Just imagine all the damage that takes place just by shooting 10 people. It's incredible. And I want you to take responsibility for your own life. You can't be in the army or in the navy or whatever, and you can't produce weapons and then say, I'm just doing my job. No, you cannot do that. You take responsibility for this. It's your responsibility. If you work in the weapon industry, in the weapon and war lobby, man, it's your responsibility. And don't come with this, if I don't do it, someone else will. That's also bullshit. You are responsible for whatever you do in your life. So I want really to encourage you, if you're working in one of these fields, where you produce weapons, where you're kind of starting wars, like politically, where you're really trying to own other countries and economies, by kind of greedy strategies, lobbyism, all this stuff. If you're working in this industry, please really reflect. What are you doing? Like, how are you investing your life? There is a million other jobs that you can do, and there is no need for this idiotic behavior. Please think about what you're bringing into the world. And if you think you can't find another job, that's stupid. You will. There is enough other jobs that you can do. You don't have to rely on this. Really follow your conscience about this. Don't be a puppet. Take responsibility. Yeah, and one thing in the very end that I want to mention. Why am I wearing this t-shirt? Maybe you noticed it already. It says "Obey Propaganda." It's funny, like a friend of mine bought me this shirt. And this guy, Nixon, is the one who abolished the gold standard, which has to do with the money system. And if you want to dig more into this, you can also check Executive Order 11110, which is a very, very important thing. I'm wearing this because it's kind of representing the system and like, obey what we say, right? Of course, I'm not saying that you should obey propaganda. This is like, I want you to do exactly the opposite. This is like this is like a joke for me, because for me it's so obvious. Like, the moment you say something is propaganda, everybody should know that you shouldn't really follow it, because it's trying to steer you in a certain direction. So you should be really aware that maybe 90% of what you see in the mainstream media, in the news especially, is propaganda. Like, it's trying to steer you in a direction. They want you to have a certain mindset so that they can say this or that war, oh, we have to fight this because they're such a bad enemy, And it's always the same pattern. They need the support of the people. And to get that, they just need 5 days of mainstream media, and then everybody will have this opinion. And it's something, it's not really good. Okay, I hope you got a lot from this video. I hope I could shake you up a bit, wake you up a bit, in case you're not already kind of free from that system as much as you can. And I wish you the very best on your journey. See you.